Well, welcome to another edition of Inside the Deal, where myself and Mr. Craig, Show Me the Money Harrison, explore the wonderful world of rugby league and reflect on another interesting week where transfers have happened with players joining other clubs and players, sadly, as is the case with Regan Grace, leaving the sport for rugby union. Hang on a second, what's this? Hang on a second, Craig, we've got some breaking news. Hulkinston Rovers have just put this out, bang on 11 o'clock. Wow. Club statement on Tony Smith. The club have this morning stood down Tony Smith as head coach for the remainder of the season. Danny McGuire will take charge of all first team matters until Willie Peters arrives later on this year. Danny, of course, will be the assistant to Willie Peters, having signed a 3-year contract extension to stay with Hulkinston Rovers until the end of 2025.
Can I just say, obviously you've known for 10 minutes that because that's the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. I'm pleased that we're live because you obviously had that up your sleeve and you've delivered it like you're delivering the most biggest secret I've ever seen, and you would never get an acting job in EastEnders. That's you've no chance.
Well, while we record, do you want me to do it again with more?
No, we're sticking on. Sam's even like, my God, I can't get it. He must have had it up his sleeve and he's pumped it out and he's literally gone, hi, oh my God, breaking news. Right, carry on.
Craig, there's breaking news. Tony Smith's gone. I presume this final paragraph is from Neil Hudgell, which then goes on to say, we would like to take this opportunity to thank Tony Smith for his hard work over the last 3 years. The club are in a much better place than when he started, and I guess that final point is correct. The club are in a better place than before when Tony started. He did inherit a bit of a mess, Tony, obviously, when Hulkinston Rovers. They were predominantly always in them £1 million games and relegation battles, Craig, as we know. Tony has genuinely, rightly or wrongly, what happened this season has been a bit of a car crash. We can talk a little bit about the Toulouse game. That has obviously ended and resulted in his departure. But ultimately, you know, they have been a serious force to be reckoned with. And you think back to last year, albeit we had the COVID issue, so the fans, you know, couldn't really get behind the team, but they were a top 4 side. And they were 80 minutes away from the grand final.
I said this about 6 months ago. I think I quoted on the show saying, it seemed the perfect marriage in heaven, didn't it? It seemed the perfect partnership. Tony revitalised, Tony's staff and everybody revitalised, UKR revitalising the club. It was all new. It came along at a time when, you know, UKR were probably, I'm not saying on the knees, but certainly, you know, not looking to the future. Suddenly, I think there were 13, 14 signings went in within a short period. I think I look back now and God, from Jez Dean, George King, and then the others went in, and they went on that fabulous run. Now, a lot of people took a lot away from UKR and Tony by saying, oh, COVID and the game situation, they got this, but I totally disagree. I thought the brand of rugby they played were as good as what I've seen. They were playing with confidence. Players were emerging as stars from everywhere. So people were watching the emergence of Mikey Lewis, you know, you wrote Jez Litton, you wrote Mills, Kenny Dowell came along and were a fantastic signing. It just seemed, if everybody wanted to be at a club, and I know a couple of signings that they missed out on. Certainly, they went really close to getting Toby King. I can talk about that now, but it was so close, and it was near. And the reason Toby we're talking about is because the sell of UKR and Tony and the staff and Paul Larkin were brilliant, and everybody were ringing me. I'm not kidding you. So a lot of players were saying to me, "Mate, get me to KR. This is the place to be." They started the stuff behind the goalpost. It just seemed amazing. Now, I don't know what's changed this year. That's not for me to say, and I certainly won't go into stuff anything that's personally. But I mean, I haven't really had. I've not had the same thing from me being an agent as what I did have. So I don't know and some of the results of late, Mick, have not been great. There's obviously been what do you call it, a personality clash, I don't know, with Paul and Tony. Neil doesn't seem to get involved, what I've seen of it. Neil doesn't get involved in anything day to day. So Neil will just come into the club and see what he sees, but it's from afar. He's one of them. I'll give him his due on this, and I'll give him a lot of respect for Neil Hudgell. He's one of them chairman, Mick, who's happy to be silent till he has to. And then he'll come in. But other than that, he's actually the perfect person to work for. Paul Larkin were brought in on the back of, I think him and Tony met and great relationship together. Tony were buzzing because before that they had Mike Smith. Mike were there for 10, 15, 20 years.
Obviously he had the illness and he had to...
Yeah, but I think it was going to happen anyway, if I'll be honest. I hope I'm not speaking honest. I think that was going to happen. So I know Paul and Tony started off on unbelievable footing. That's obviously for whatever reason. And I hope that don't go, public. It needs to stay where it is. And there were enough talk about when Tony decided on the day to do what he did. And then I thought that put a lot of questions. People saying, well, what's happened? And that's probably natural, mate. But some things need to stay behind the closed doors. It's not a classy thing to do. It's just not respectful on anybody. Paul Larkin's done a fantastic job at that club. This decision today wouldn't have been taken lightly. I'm absolutely sure of that. But again, I think the pressure, Mick, what Toulouse are starting to put on the clubs, this is how I see it. I think everyone's watching Rugby League and a bit of Super League and it's clap and this and everyone's happy, and suddenly Toulouse are coming from beneath the ocean and all of a sudden you start thinking, oh God, they're getting closer. And we're still all right. Toulouse would have to win 6 games on trot. Suddenly they beat Wakey last week.
Old Kingston Rovers.
They
play Wakefield.
Wakefield this week. They beat Old Kingston Rovers and then they've got Wakey. If they beat Wakey at Magic...
It's on.
And this is when Warrington, the pressure on Warrington is going to come up. My dad all talked about the pressure before. Get ready. Because Toulouse are clambering. Wakefield, what does Michael do? Does Michael sit there and just... I bet they're all... Toulouse are coming. Do OKR get dragged into that if they don't be careful?
Well, when you look at OKR, Craig, and you've purely got to look at the facts. So, in ever since, we're going back to early April. So since early April, Craig, and this is including the Challenge Cup semi-final against Huddersfield, Hull Kingston Rovers have one win in their last 9 games. They've won 1 in 9, and that one win was at home to Salford. You're looking at the results and you can talk about the 32-0 away at Castleford, the performance against Toulouse. I know a lot of Hull Kingston Rovers fans who went to that game and they're saying that is one of the worst, most abject Hull Kingston Rovers performances. They were using words like gutless, Craig. There's no energy.
I don't like
There's
that.
no. I know, but these are fans. These are fans who've paid hard money, and you're obviously going to get that emotive aspect out. But they're just saying, that it was a gutless performance. The players aren't playing for the shirt. I mean, that might be a harsh criticism.
Yeah, that is for me.
But that's from a supporter's point of view, Craig. They've gone and spent however many hundreds of pounds
100%.
to go watch but
the fact that I promise you, rugby players try. They don't not try.
No, listen, I know. I'm not.
Tony started off with a run similar. The first bit, he had a really slow start, and then it exploded. For some reason, it's going a bit like back to type. They have had some injuries. Come on, Kane Lynette probably one of the biggest reasons. Yeah. If you pick your dream team over the last 4 years, Kane Lynette would be arguably in that back row every single week. I think Coots has missed so many games, played a few.
Injury, yeah.
I think Jordan Abdul, whether you're a big fan of Jordan, whether you're not, they've missed Jordan, who was in the dream team, got in the England squad. Mikey and 2 young lads, Mikey and Rowan have had to go and play probably more games than what they would have done. I think George King's massive every time they seem to lose. George is massive from Tom. Tony's done, let's look at Tony's job there. I hope this comes out right, what I'm going to say. Tony deserves a place in rugby league because we need people like Tony with his views on rugby, which is a very open, expressive view on how to play rugby. Yeah. Tony's a very much of a man manager, as in the coach, and he likes players to express themselves. He puts the atmosphere. We've talked about this before. Ultimately, results have not been great. I think this is, if you look now, you've got Willie Peters coming in next year. I was wondering whether they could get Willie Peters to come early. Danny's got a big... I can't think of what Dan's going to do now because he is being put straight into the fire. This is not an easy gig now to pick a team on the results you've just said and try and pull them away up the table. And guess what? I can't even think the old derby's coming this week.
I know.
I can't. If somebody were doing it, what do you call it? A plot. This is what they do. They'd say Tony Smith gone before the whole derby. It's like building Jenna Brooks on Sky, and we know Jenna likes a bit of an headline. I bet she's absolutely writing the script as we speak. Brett Hodgson probably is under the same pressure as Tony.
After the defeat to Leeds.
Record
defeat, yeah.
So you're looking at going into a derby with both teams on lack of form, both coaches under pressure. One ultimately is gone. The fans are, everyone's... I can't get my head around it because is there ever a right time to sack your coach or to relieve him of his duties? When John Keir left Bradford, was it the right time, whether you love John or not?
I hope John don't mind me saying this, but I think John should have gone a couple of weeks earlier.
Right.
I think the timing of that, after the push Featherstone all the way on that Monday night game, whether or not John had told him before the game that he was going and he got a performance out of him, I think John probably should have gone after the Barrow or Halifax game. But yeah, you're right. The timing is always interesting.
And you look at. I had a lot of employees when I had a waste management company, and no one teaches you how to be a boss. It's literally thrown into the deep end. I'd saw my dad as a young man as a waste paper merchant. My dad, I worked for Dad from being 15 and a half year old when I left school, which is not a good thing, but I did. And you were thrust straight into it. And I can remember Dad having to make big calls on staff, and it'd break his heart. You'd see him in car afterwards, and he'd say, "I can't believe I've had to make that call," but he's not doing his job right. When I got into my job, I probably found that one of the worst parts at job, Mick. Having to make them big calls. But ultimately, you've got to, because you're getting paid. It was my company, but I was the managing director. I had to make them calls. You have to make some calls that are not going to be, and people have comments. I have a feeling the UKR fans, and do you know what, everyone? Let's put this one up. Tony's probably thought, I have a feeling Tony's thought that he thought it was unattainable. I don't know. Tony's a big man and he'll say his own stuff, but I would think that Tony, the press, once they've decided to go somewhere else and Tony decided he was leaving, do you think the lines were drawn then?
Correct.
I think if Tony had a load of good results then, everyone would have gone, wow, brilliant. Tony had got the farewell he probably deserved, a walking around the pitch with his family. Thank you to the people. I know Tony loves Hull. I reckon Tony loves the place, absolutely fell in love with it. So he didn't get the ending he should have done, really, but they've had to make a call. And it takes it takes a lot of bottle making. Don't think for 1 minute. Even if I don't get on with you, to make a call like that is tough. It'll take emotionally out of Paul and Neil. It'll be a lot of emotion. Because you're going to look... People think... I say, I don't do social media. You get sent social media 50 comments, even if you don't watch it. I tell my mates, I said, don't ever send me anything. I cannot stand... I don't want any... But they still do it. As soon as I say it, they still do it. Yeah. So there'll be Neil and Paul there. There'll be Tony. Hopefully they all switch the phones off and get on with it. I can't imagine Tony having a chance. I hope Tony's in the place today and he can have a chance to set her out at lads. And the lads can give a chance to say to Tony what they think of him. Because that bond, what he's had with lads, has been fantastic. He has, without a doubt, he's had a good bond that you never hear any players coming out. Yeah. 1% of players coming out having a go at Tony. I hope they don't do it afterwards like players sometimes do. Oh, well, yeah. It didn't. It hasn't been that camp. Hull KR has not been that camp. It's been a happy place. Whether they get the results or not, it's been a happy place. Paul's a fantastic bloke. I like Paul. I like his ethics. I like what he stands for. Tony's a pure rugby league man. Do you know what? Let's have a happy ending. Let's hope Tony has got his mojo back and he goes on and comes out now. If you look at the jobs available, within a week you'll be talking about Tony being linked to 5 jobs, I'm telling you. Even yours.
Well, I was going to say...
Honestly.
I know.
And by the way, we're all Mark Dunning fans, but I tell you now, the first link will come on It'll be that job. It'll be what Dennis is going to decide to do at Newcastle.
Yeah.
I tell you now. People on what I'm getting text, they're saying, "Oh yeah, I bet he's going to go to Hull." They're all having a laugh about it. So Tony, if he has got his mojo back, will not be out of work for long.
I totally agree, Craig. And it's interesting you mentioned the whole situation, because when this news broke already, you look at Brett Hodgson under immense pressure at Hull FC. Well, you talk about scripts, Craig.
Oh.
If Tony's in charge of black and white.
No, don't even talk about it.
I know.
No. That's fantasy.
Just a quick one. Obviously, Hulkinson Rovers, 1 win in 9. That is relegation form. Fact. They're lucky they've got the 14 points. Toulouse, as we know, they're on the 6. When we've done this show weeks ago, you asked me, what do you reckon Toulouse are going to get? I still think they are going to get another 3 or 4 home wins, Craig.
Wow.
I think Toulouse will end up on 14 or 16 points come the end of the
season. I tell you what,
season.
they've been unlucky a couple of times. They've hit the crossbar, haven't they?
Exactly. They had the very narrow defeat against Wigan. Hulkinson Rovers, first time there, got very lucky in the second half. You know, the big game for me is obviously Saturday at 1 o'clock, because if Toulouse do that drags Wakefield, even Salford, Warrington, and like you said,
well, no, Salford are it's all about form, Mick. Salford are on the way up.
No, I agree, Craig, but
it's the ones who are on the 8, Ulkia, the Wakeys.
And your Warringtons.
The Warringtons.
Yeah.
And Toulouse now, what you'll know, everybody knows this, when you get on a bit of a run, Toulouse, they'll be sat there now and they're going, the pressure's not on Toulouse.
Agreed.
I reckon they're going, here, let's go. Yeah. The pressure's coming on.
No, I agree.
Wakey,
I agree.
KR and Warrington.
I mean, Toulouse, you look at their next games, Craig, and rightly or wrongly, I was trying to explain this to someone yesterday. I said, I can see 3 wins out of their next few games.
Well, this is a player transfer. Yeah. We can't. We'll save this for the show. Yeah, we can't.
We'll save this for the show, but, you know, they've got Wakefield, then they've got Leeds at home, Salford at home, Hull FC at home, Warrington at home. They've got to run a home games because they've been playing away every week. I'm telling you. Anyway, but yeah, Tony has obviously left by mutual consent. He's been stood down. Tony will obviously move to another club. He'll be high in demand, as Craig says.
Best of luck, Tony, and best of luck, Paul, and best of luck, the club.
Yeah.
I hope everything goes all right. And like I said, they're saying Danny will take over to the end of the year. Wow, what a...
Well, it was interesting because I was speaking to Danny McGuire at Odsal on Thursday, and let me tell you.
Oh yeah, we're reserves. Yeah.
What I like about Danny is, you know, there's all the equipment, the exercise bikes, and Oddsal's not an easy place logistically to get all your equipment in because the coach parks at the top.
He'll go and carry it all when he don't give a monkeys.
Honest, I'm watching Danny McGuire, bless him, and I hope he don't mind saying this because I'm like, Danny.
No.
I'm like, Danny, don't you have any staff to help you? And he says, no, we're all in it together. And I was watching Danny cart the exercise bikes up, the pads, the tackle pads. Honestly, I'm stood there waiting to do an interview with Mark Dunning, and I'm watching Danny go up and down them steps 3 or 4 times. And that's what I like about Danny McGuire. You know,
he's a funny one.
He has that all-in ethos, and you know, even though Hulkinson Rovers got pumped and he was clearly a bit disappointed with the scoreline and the performance, you know, he was still really energetic, enthusiastic. You know,
It's funny you should say that, Mick, and great point. But I went to KR when he was first assistant and he ran out with the water bottles and I took a photo of it, and I know one day I want to save it because I couldn't stop laughing. The goat was stood there and rightly so, by the way, rightly so. He's going to learn, as a coach he's nothing. As a player, as a coach he's got to earn his stripes. But I found it brilliant that he were having to dig in and do that, and I'd say what a chance in a way, but what a high pressure situation to be thrown into. I mean, I can't even envisage Danny's preparation in 4 days to go to the derby, Mick. I can't even get. This could be the biggest story of the year. He's a young man for a coach, isn't he? And could Danny have took the job at KR as when Tony resigned? Could Danny? I always felt Danny thought he needed more time. So he spoke personally and he said, I need another something it is. So listen, I know the lads will respect him. Yeah. I know the club respect him. I know he's a lovely lad. But it's it's a tough gig. This is a tough gig, Mick, but best luck to everybody. Best luck to all them people and the families, because, you know, people come out with horrendous comments, and I've said this on social media. It's not the people. They're sometimes big enough to take it. It'll be the families, you know, Tony's family, and the thing is, it'll be just keep it positive, please.
The next one is obviously a player close to your heart, a former player of Show Me the Money, Matty Nicholson, who has gone from Wigan to Warrington, Craig. That was a bit of a big news. We've heard Matty Peet not happy with how Darryl and Warrington conducted themselves, and then Darryl had his say.
I'm going to stop you there.
I know they're all friends.
No, I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you because he's told me. I've discussed this with Matty.
Was this the media twisting it then?
He never had a problem with Darryl Powell. Never has, never will do.
Right.
It was Warrington. It was about that point he made was about Warrington, and he made a point which I thought was the most straightforward. I've had about 10 people on in rugby league who I trust. They all said what a great point to make. Whether he should have gone out publicly to make it, that's automatic because it causes. But he said some straight things there. He said Warrington have paid fees for a lot of players, and they've not gone through the system and become first team players. That's nothing to do with Darryl Powell. Darryl Powell's been there 4 months. How can somebody... He's having to go with the Warrington system historically over the last 10, 15 years.
Yes.
But suddenly the twist was Matty and Darryl. And I'm like, that's horrendous. What has Matty Peet going to have a go with Darryl for? It's ridiculous. He's been there 5 months. He's got nothing to do with what's been happening at Warrington. And so let's put that one stringently out there. I promise you, it was a straight... And do you know what? Do you think it ridiculous? I read it and thought, it's really well put what he said. He said, if Warrington are spending all this money on their youth department, why are they then paying fees for young men when they're not getting their own players who they paid the fees for? So they're looking over and saying, okay, let's have a look there. That probably is the right. He's probably telling the truth. I believe Fitzy and the club have worked hard as you've ever seen to get this right. I know Carl, Carl's when he got there, said, we need to believe in our own youth, Craig. That was Carl's big challenge. So I suppose what they're saying there is, we haven't got that quality of player in that position at that age, so we're going to have to buy it. It became available, and let's be honest, Matty's become available. So he is allowed to talk. There's nothing wrong. Matt is allowed as a player to pursue his options. I think the one disappointing thing, Mick, could be from Matty's, when I noticed he said it. He said, I told the lad he was going to get a position in there was going to be opportunity. Matty didn't believe the opportunity I was saying. I suppose that's the disappointing bit for both of them. Because I know Matty used to get on like out. So that'd be the one thing. I wonder what went wrong in that one.
Yeah, because obviously Matty Nicholson has obviously come through the academy with Matty Peet as the head coach, as the father figure.
When Matthew were with me and family, they spoke so highly of Matty Peet, so I don't know what Matty said. And listen, we're only hearing off third ways. It might be that. Yeah. But Matty's, listen, it's part of life. He was out of contract. He obviously has seen a better opportunity. I don't think it's money, by the way. I'll stick up for Matty and his dad and his family. I don't think it's up to the money. He always talked about opportunity of playing first team at a young age. That was what he wanted, the first team opportunities.
He's seen more of an opening at Warrington than Wigan.
Yes, and I suppose when I were talking, you probably sometimes wanted him to be patient because it's going to come and there's a lot of years. But I suppose that at the end of the day, if you look at the back rowers, and I always thought he'd make a prop in end, but if you look at the back rowers or 13, he's obviously seen something there where he sees the opportunity better than... And I'd have thought opposite because Piers Paul, if the rumours are right...
Well, that's what...
He's with Australia.
Newcastle have already put it out.
Oh.
That Will Price, Kai Piers Paul will be joining Newcastle.
Oh, wow. So, there you go. So, I'd have thought that would have been wow, look what's happened to Piers Paul. You can have the same opportunity to be that player. Wigan probably need... You know what? With all these, what's happening? You've just mentioned a player there, and then you'd mentioned Matty, and then I think somebody mentioned another player. That's 3. You're looking at that. Wigan probably need some of these young men to commit to their club because I think a lot of times there's a big argument. I mean, you had it years ago on Full 80. Is it Siddle and his parents who should be thanks for making Matty the player at 19, or what influences had Wigan had from being on scholarships and then into the... there's an argument to be had that Siddle probably had him for longer years and
developed him as a person.
So sometimes you say, well, Wigan deserve to keep the player compensation. What we did with Matty, I have a guess. Matty were probably one of the top back rowers in the country at Siddle. Everyone were on about him anyway.
Yes,
because they used to get mixed up with the other Matty Nicholson. You can remember the other Matty Nicholson. So I think that's it. Listen, it is what it is. Get on with it. He's a fantastic player, Mick. He's a fantastic player. One thing he is, when I first saw Matty play and then his clips, when we clipped him up, I was like, wow. And we commentated on the England-France game.
We did when he was playing.
And it was absolutely outstanding that night. As was, Will Price ended up on the wing that night, if you remember.
Yeah, he was on the wing.
He looked sick. He was devastated about being put on that wing, but Matthew was the player I noticed the most. So... good on him. I don't think it's a personal one. I think it'll just, the derby's, it's on this week, innit?
It is.
Wigan got this week. Saints.
Yeah.
I was thinking of Warrington here.
But look, it's interesting, and like you say, Craig, when you actually analyse, and you're quite right, you made a very good point there, when you actually analyse what Matty Peet has actually said, it's nothing personal to Darryl. It's more of a little bit of a dig at Fitzy and how Warrington...
the departments, it's not Fitzy, it's about how they...
taking young players, paying fees and then not developing them. I'm not sure what the situation was with Morgan Smith, but I always remember Morgan Smith being...
Mickey Lamont, there's quite a few.
Being built, as the next big thing after paying
I think he quoted Ellis Longstaff, didn't he?
Yeah, Ellis Longstaff, yeah. No, listen, it's interesting. It just puts a bit of fat in the fire. And I'm sure Matty Nicholson's going to become a household name at the Helliwell Jones. The final one this week, and it's a bit of a disappointing one, but it's not completely unexpected because we know rugby union and the salary cap, certainly when you start talking about those French Rugby Union teams, a lot of the Guinness Premiership Rugby Union teams in the UK struggle to keep their stars because obviously they go over to across the channel to France. But Regan Grace, who's been immense for St Helens for a number of seasons now, he's sadly leaving the sport, Craig, and he's off to Racing 92 or Racing 92.
Ultimately, I think Regan, I don't know if I'm right here, but I think he had an agent or a more union-based agent.
But this has ultimately come down to money.
Yes. Opportunity as well. I would say, I heard. If we're being honest, I heard all this 15 months ago, and I think that he was linked with Wales Rugby Union.
Correct.
A central sort of contract.
Yes.
And if he came over, they thought he could be a world star in rugby union, where his profile and earning potential would be 50. You've got to be honest.
Yeah.
If he killed it for Wales, what's the other winger? Everyone's on about Wales's winger. The young lad.
Not Sammer.
No, it might be. Anyway, imagine them two on each wing. They're both the fastest. So
the young kids. I think it's called.
Sorry for being rude there for rugby union lads. We should, that. But I know
I know what you mean, Craig. Yes.
Yeah, and them two on either wing. Can you imagine Wales? They're gonna. So his potential to become a star, you can't. No one can ever say. I'm just disappointed because we've lost another player to another competition. Whether it's to NRL, whether it's to rugby union, Mick, we still haven't got enough talent pool to keep on reproducing this type of talent. The writing was on the wall on this one, Mick, I'm afraid. To get a player of Reese's ability to play his contract out. Here's a tip for people when you want to know what agents and whatever. If the club don't approach you before May the 1st, your player's going. Yes. Very rarely do you negotiate with the club after that. So I tell my players and their families when they're worried, and I've got 50 texts last week about a player who's completely nervous and thing. I said, listen, you probably won't be stopping at your club because they would have made you an offer by now. Now, in some cases, Featherstone, Lee, maybe Toulouse, they can't do because they don't know where they're going to be.
They don't know where they're going
There's that fear factor, which is why people said we should be a franchise again and not we shouldn't do the promotion relegation. The family shouldn't be put through this. They're the rules. It's as simple as that. But it's a massive thing, Mick. He would always. I think when you're letting potentially the top 5 winger in our comp go to May the 1st, you're going. No, but it'll be interesting. I'd like to ask. I wonder if he got asked off any rugby league club. I wonder if anybody else from our comp went for him.
Yeah. And why have St Helens not made him the offer? Because they knew he was going to leave anyway. And
it'll be interesting. I think they have made an offer.
Right.
I know they've made an offer.
All right. So they've made the offer,
but it hasn't been.
Clearly, there's not enough meat on the bone, and
And if I know Saints, you're going to see somebody else. You can just feel it. Usually with Saints. When Danny Rich left, everyone's panicking. Oh my God, Lewis Dodd. They knew what were coming. Yeah. I know when they've let Wilkin go, they probably thought, John, it's time for you to go. Imagine Morgan Knowles coming through at that time for 2 years with him, and John thought it's time for me to get off. I know what's coming.
Here you go, Morgan.
So I think you'll find Saints will have probably 1 or 2 ideas already, whether it comes from their academy, Mick, or whether they go outside to bring somebody in. I just thought, I can remember somebody asking me this a year ago, I thought it's 100% he's going to go because you'd have done the deal by now. There's going to be some movement this week on player trades, get ready. I can feel it. It's the cap space is there, and a lot of them are at full cap. They need to bring players in, so they're going to have to do deals, as we did with the
Alex Mellor and Toby King.
And Toby King. This is going to become more prevalent now as we go on. And this week, that bit of panic, I think it'll explode this week. I think we're in for us. I think we'll sit down next week and we'll be like, oh no. Listen, it adds a bit of excitement to the sport, and as long as they make the right calls, I'm sure. I thought about this. Toby, leave you on this one. Toby made his debut against Cass, and Jake Wardle's made his debut against Salford. They both got beat. You look at it and you go, all that talk. I bet this today they're thinking, wow, all that talk we've both got. Absolutely, it's been a baptism of fire for both of them, hasn't it? All good, Mick.
Yeah. Well, that's Inside the Deal, episode number 2. Join us again next week when more rugby league transfer musings and dealings are announced, and my good friend here, Craig.
And Mick, don't let Mick ever do that acting again, please, because it's banned from the show. That's one of the worst pieces of acting.
He's too early on a Monday morning. But yes, thank you for subscribing and supporting, and don't forget the full 80 minutes will be also available on YouTube this week as well.